Good afternoon, everyone. We will call the March 26th regularly scheduled meeting of the Bastrop Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Will you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Debbie Moore.
Here.
Glenn Johnson.
Here.
Cynthia Meyer.
Here.
Cheryl Lee.
Present.
Greg Sherry.
Where'd he go?
We lost Greg somewhere.
He might not know it's 6 p.m.
Okay. Greg is away from the video.
Where's Ishmael?
Yeah, keep going, Viv.
Hello.
All right. Yeah, keep on going.
Ishmael Harris.
Here.
Pablo Serna.
Here.
Did you say something?
Mr. Sherry was on the video earlier, so we expect to have him come back. But anyway, we do have a quorum. And if anyone is watching from home, you can see we are doing a virtual P&Z meeting. We have a quorum because we have 4 members that are calling in from video and 3 members present. So, next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is the time where anyone can speak that wants to about any item that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone here?
There's no one here.
Since there's no one here but staff, do you have any?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
So with that, we will move on to item 3. Items for individual consideration. Consider action to provide approve meeting minutes from the January 30 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. It was made available to everyone. Does anyone have any additions, corrections? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
A motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved unanimously. And please let the record show that Mr. Sherry was found and he is now in attendance at the meeting.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item 3B, consider action to approve with conditions the Trim subdivision, a replat of the Trim subdivision Phase 1, 0.319 acres of Building Block 118 east of water, 1.24 acres of Building Block 119 east of water, located at the southeast corner of State Highway 71 and Jackson Street within the city limits of Bastrop, Texas, as shown on Exhibit 1.
Yes.
Ms. Bills.
So the item before you tonight is a replat request. It is to replat the original Trim Phase 1 subdivision and add in 0.319 acres of Building Block 118 and 1.24 acres of Building Block 119. This is a commercial replat. Local government code gives you some leeway on not having to take commercial replats back to planning and zoning. They can sometimes be done administratively. In this instance, they're dedicating some additional right-of-way and buildings, rebuilding part of the street. So we felt that this needed to come back to P&Z for approval and acceptance of that right-of-way dedication. The property in question is on our future land use plan designated as professional services. The character district in our new B3 code is Pine Village, and then the place type is P5 Core. And I will say the applicant has been working on this project, did predate our B3 code adoption. They've been working on it for a while. So the location of this property is at the southeast corner, of Highway 71 and Jackson Street. So this is a vacant lot directly across from the CVS and the dialysis center, and then right north of the county building, so right off the highway. The applicant who's applied is Quick Trip gas station. Some of you that have been here for a while remember they were trying to go at the corner of 95 and Chestnut originally, and they've decided this is a better location and have moved to the highway. So this replat will make all this property into a one-lot subdivision. They will be dedicating some right-of-way at the corner of Jackson Street and Highway 71 on Jackson Street. And what that'll allow them to do is they'll be putting in some improvements on Jackson Street to add an actual dedicated right turn lane. There's kind of a faux right turn lane right there, but it still stacks into the the lane that goes straight underneath the overpass. So this will give more stacking ability for people who just wish to turn right, so you won't stack up quite as badly in the main lane. And Viviana, you can note Mr. Scarnulis has joined the meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
So any questions about the nature of where this is, what they're trying to do? Look at the camera.
No
Nope,
questions
okay.
about the nature, but my question might be about the drainage. There's been some amendments to the topography there over the years.
Yes.
And have they taken I'm sure y'all have taken a look at that?
So this is one, actually, they started working on this during the moratorium, so they had to actually take this through the moratorium with an initial drainage study, and they've actually worked all the way through their site development plan. They're waiting on this plat for us to be able to approve their site development plan, and that anticipates the finished conditions on the site using underground storage for their drainage that will then outflow back into the system as it goes back towards the river. So they have done a full drainage study for this lot. So the Development Review Committee has looked at this a couple times, and we're recommending approval with some conditions. And most of these conditions are just some minor edits on the Mylar that they just need to make before we take it to go record. So if Planning and Zoning approves with these conditions, we cannot take the plat to go record until all of these 8 items have been done on the plat. But with our meeting schedules the way they are, they'll be able to get it done in the next couple weeks, but we wouldn't have been able to get it back to P&Z as quickly. So some of the items on there, they needed an address on the signature block for the company that currently owns it. They need to change to 2019 to 2000 throughout. Some of these are just some errors. The topography lines, we like to see those when we're reviewing, but some of that will change over time, so we like them to take them off before we record it, because that will change potentially. They need to change the note 26. There's a blanket easement that they need to re-record that encompasses the entire property. They had one on there for the original subdivision. This one will take into account the lots to the east. They also need to add on the standard plat notes from the county for the Lost Pines habitat conservation permitting. They have some specific notes because it is in the toad habitat, although it has been disturbed in the past, so that changes some of their permitting, but that goes through the county's plan, doesn't come through us. And then they just need to update some of the notes. Instead of referring to our subdivision and zoning ordinances, to refer now to our B3 codes, which are the new codes in place. And then also they have, since we have the blanket easement, which gives BP&L the ability to go in and figure out where the utilities need to be, they don't need the 15-foot BP&L easement on the plat at this point because it may move around. So they need to take that off the face until they'll dedicate it when they figure out where it actually needs to go when they do construction. So those are the conditions that staff has recommended approval with for the plat. Any questions on those specific items?
And the applicant is okay with those conditions?
Yes. Yeah.
Are there any questions? No questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. From you at home or you on the dais, either one.
I move to
I make
accept
a
the
motion to
staff
approve the
recommendation.
replat of the Trim subdivision.
Okay.
Second.
But been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Debbie Moore,
Yes.
Glenn Johnson,
Yes.
Cynthia Meyer,
Yes,
Cheryl Lee,
Yes.
Greg Sherry,
Yes.
Ishmael Harris,
Yes.
Pablo Serna,
Yes.
Ed Scarnellis.
Yes.
Unanimous vote, it is approved. Thank you, ma'am. Updates, number 4. 4A, update on the recent city council actions regarding planning department items.
We haven't had a lot of items go forward from P&Z to council lately, but we did update council yesterday and get some direction on making edits and updates to the B3 code technical manual. So you'll remember when we adopted the code, we adopted the B3 code, which provides the standards for subdivision, for zoning, and how you're going to put your building blocks together for the city. The technical manual includes a lot more of the details on how you get there, the more of the nitty-gritty of what that looks like. Then we also have two more pieces, the authentic Bastrop pattern book, which acts as a guide in some parts of the city, and then there's some of it that's required in the Iredell District, Historic District. Then we have our development manual, and the development manual's purpose is to help the applicant put together their applications and make sure they're turning in all the right pieces of information. So staff primarily is looking at our future land use plan updates that we need to do. Discovered that there's kind of, we have a table in the technical manual that mandates approval authority and review, and one of the categories in there has all changes to comprehensive plan maps have to be notified to the entire city limits and ETJ by mail, which means we would have to notify a 30 square mile area by mail every time we want to change the future land use plan. And that's not a requirement of the state. The state requires you notify people when you're changing the zoning, because the zoning directly impacts what you're able to develop. Your future land use plan is a guiding document that the zoning implements. So there's no requirement in the local government code to do that notification. It also had a requirement to do posted sign notification, which is also problematic when you're looking at a 30 square mile area and where exactly those signs would go. So I think possibly the intent of that table was to mandate when someone is requesting it outside of our normal plan amendment cycles to have then we have to notify people when it's a specific landowner who's making a specific request for his property. But when you're doing a massive, re-imaging of the entire plan, that was not the intention to notify. So that we're going to have to go and amend that table to clarify that action. So that's the main thing that staff was bringing to the attention of the City Council. And then also we have some changes that when we wrote the code, we pulled in requirements from other parts of the municipal code, floodplain, grandfathering, that were not written with the B3 and they didn't get reflected 100%. Some of them aren't in there and some of them aren't reflected accurately on who the approval and appeal authority is. So just some edits on that. And so staff is going to work on doing those edits and bring those back to P&Z for your review first, because you have to review and approve or recommend, and then they go to City Council for approval. So,
Given the magnitude of what has been done, I think the small number of edits, mainly being grammatical and not technical, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, we do anticipate, so we're at the 4-month mark. We're 4 months into the new code. We said 6 months in, I think, was what council wanted us to kind of look at it and see at that point. So I think at the 6-month mark, we'll have a couple other suggestions. One, potentially sign code. I think there may have been, we all love the sign code. Every day I get to approve signs. It's fun to interpret. But that's one of those that every community defines for themselves what signage looks like. And so I'm not sure we had a good comprehensive discussion on that during the code, because some of that kind of changed towards the end. So some of those elements that kind of got changed right at the very end, I think maybe we need to revisit, especially along the 71 corridor. So that's specifically, because they are different than a lot of the rest of town on the highways. So that's the other thing staff anticipates in the future bringing
And
back.
95 too, there was some discussions there.
95 and 71 specifically, yeah, and then a lot of very strict compliance on some sizes and lighting that we might not have anticipated how they were going to affect some applicants. So anything else that y'all have heard?
Everyone is uncharacteristically quiet today.
Yeah, so if you guys do hear things that, in the community.
One question I have, I have heard.
Have it on mute.
They were concerned, there was a concern about the
I'm only
time.
hearing and understanding about every third word.
There is concern about the a delay in approval of permits. I didn't really get any specific. I just raise that as
Okay,
something I heard at I
yeah.
don't even remember now where it was, but there was a concern about it seems to be slower in Bastrop County than elsewhere. So I have no idea about what
Yeah.
the problem is.
And that's definitely something we're trying to make sure we keep our reviews on our newly adopted schedule and getting those comments out. So typically, when someone submits a development plan or even a building permit that's brand new, 2 weeks is the maximum time, 2 weeks is the time it takes to get the comments out, from turning in on a Monday to getting the comments 10 business days later. So that's what our schedule calls for, and we're constantly working to make sure we're meeting that. So, and I will say it is a new code, so there have been some back and forths with applicants not getting all the information turned in initially, and that's just a learning curve of differences in the code that we're still working out. So
Has the pandemic, social distancing or whatever, and stay-at-home orders or whatever affected the processing or
not as of yet, no. Staff is all still here, actually. I will say there's only 4 of us in the planning and development and inspections department right now, but we're all here, and we got in 10 new home construction permits on Monday that are working their way through the system now. 10, yeah. And then our, we usually, the development permits kind of ebb and flow, the development plans. So we got, I think, 5 3 weeks ago. We got 2 this week. So those are all, we'll probably get, I think we're anticipating more next Monday. So,
Yes.
but we've worked out a process where people can either mail in things or email them in to keep everything moving.
Anyone else have any comments or have any questions? It's not-
No.
Thank-
No.
None here.
Okay, Cheryl?
None here.
Okay,
No.
thank you very much.
Yes.
Item 4B, individual requests from planning and zoning commissioners that particular items to be listed on future agenda. Does anyone have anything that they want us to look at our next meeting?
No.
I have a question.
Okay.
The question I had is regarding the search for the planning director. Can we be updated on the status of that? And
So I will say with the pandemic, we do have a hiring freeze right now, so we're not looking to start doing any interviews. I think I'd have to check with HR on what exactly that time frame is. So that has been put on hold for all the positions in
I
our
think
department.
But if we have an interim though, right?
We're going to keep losing people. Certainly glad you're here, Jennifer, and I hope we do everything we can to keep you. That repository of knowledge that we had, since we've been through all of this. I would hope that the city decides to make an effort to keep a team there to keep that knowledge continues across. I don't know how that can be related back to the right people.
Yeah.
But if we go on record saying, we want to keep people that have been involved with ever since we started this process, with the comprehensive and then the new code, the land development code. I'd like to see us keep that information, because having to retrain people and go through, and because I think we have raised the bar a little bit. Like I said last time, we've raised the bar for people. And someone just asked about why is it taking so long to get through planning. Well, we've raised the bar, and that's a good thing for the city of Bastrop. And I think the people that want to develop here are going to want to do the right thing. And so we've put a lot of effort and work into putting a good set of documents. But the people who are going to have to administer that are people like Jennifer. They really need I think we need to do everything we can to keep the knowledge here. And so I'd like to get it back to the mayor and whoever else is making the decisions, that we're going to come and go as a board, as a commission, but the staff really we need to make an effort to keep our staff in place. I just want to put that on record.
I couldn't agree with you more, and there's a gentleman here in the chambers who may want to speak to that. That's Mayor Pro Tem Lyle Nelson, who's our liaison.
Commissioner, I appreciate you bringing up that question. There's lots of things in the air right now that we're dealing with. The pandemic and putting the hiring freeze on, I think, was just a natural reaction, the right move. The other thing is we just hired our interim city manager, and he's going to start Monday. Once he gets his feet firmly planted, Mr. Job, the current acting city manager, is going to take over the planning department. And he's going to work to maintain that institutional knowledge that we have going right now. Once our regular city manager comes into play here, we're going to leave it to them to hire a planning director that they will vet and feel comfortable with. So there's a lot of things in the works. We're trying to keep it into a certain box so that we can have the ongoing essential business of the city maintained at the level that we'd like for it to be at, and higher if possible. But there's just steps that we're going to have to take on a routine basis on this. But you're absolutely correct. Retaining the institutional knowledge that comes just from experience and practical application is absolutely essential. So I hope I've clarified some things for y'all.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions of Mayor Pro Tem? Hold on, come back. Anybody have any questions? I'm sorry, Pablo, I interrupted you. What'd you say?
I just want to say thank you for the follow-up and kind of keep us in the loop. That's the only request I had, that I see all the good work we're doing. I don't want to see it get lost.
Amen.
Outstanding.
Thank you. All righty. That is, Owen, has anything they want to bring up for next time? Seeing none, I will entertain item number 5, which is adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Several seconds. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to Colin and everybody that put everything together.
Stay safe and well.
Y'all take care.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Everyone have a good night.
Y'all too.
You
All
too.
right.